Hello, free from an allergy community, and welcome back to another video on raising awareness for celiac disease. I have a special guest with me today. I'm so excited to introduce Emily Doherty. She's actually originally from Queensland, but now lives in Melbourne, Victoria. She's a qualified speech pathologist with a Bachelor of Business Management, majoring in marketing and international business. Emily is also a model, digital content creator, and pilates instructor. After being diagnosed with celiac disease in 2012, Emily created Gluten Free Bucket List to raise awareness for celiac disease and to support others by sharing products, dining suggestions, recipes, and information. So, welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you and the Free From an Allergy community today.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I've got to admit, the way I actually found you, I was doing a bit of an Instagram stalk and I came across the gluten-free bucket list and I was like, this is like a hub of resources. I'm like, I need to get in contact with the owner of this because they've got a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you so much. It just started as a little side project and here we are. I never thought I would be doing a Zoom meeting like this.
I know, it feels weird, especially at the moment doing all these Zoom meetings. It's nice though to be able to talk to someone and actually see them rather than just having a phone conversation.
It is. I feel like you're in the room with me.
Oh, we've got pretty much the same backgrounds too.
We are nice and
I might all. Well, can you please share with us a bit more about you, your story, and your celiac disease journey?
Sure. So I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2012. So I was 22 at the time. I'm now 30. I unintentionally was vomiting after everything that I ate. I was starting to become very skinny. I had mouth ulcers. I was bruising really easily. I had a lot of questions about whether I did have an eating disorder, and I knew that I didn't. So I said to my parents, something's wrong here. And I was investigated, and that's when I found out that I have celiac disease. And I distinctly remember when my gastroenterologist, I had woken up from my procedure and he said, "You have celiac disease." And that was literally all he said. And then he walked away. And when I came out of the procedure, I got into the car and I just cried. I said, "Mum, I have celiac disease." And I just started bawling my eyes out. I had no idea what it was. The way the doctor told me, I honestly thought it was something terminal. So it stuck with me forever.
Oh my, and
You look so shocked.
because I can just imagine coming out of a surgery and for a doctor to be like, "You have celiac disease," and you're like,
Yeah, he
"What?"
handed me a brochure and that was that.
So did you, from after you had that, poor thing, I feel sorry for you. At least there was probably a bit of a light for you because you're like, I finally have an answer to why I'm feeling like this. So Emily, was there any help after you got diagnosed? So you got into the car with your mum, you had a bit of a breakdown, which I understand because I would be in the exact same as you. And because I guess there wasn't much awareness like there is today. What did you then do next?
There definitely was not as much awareness. I had one friend who was celiac, but in all honesty, I'd never had really asked her much about her condition. She was just the friend that ate gluten free, and that was about it. But then I went and saw a dietitian and learned all about celiac disease and eating gluten free, and I joined this Celiac Australia. I did as much research as I could on the internet about celiac disease. There was an Instagram back then, which is a great source of my knowledge at the moment. And I tried to reach out to other people who I knew were celiac and learn everything that I could from them.
Yeah, because it's quite, I don't think, and I myself, like I'm guilty of this. I didn't realize how severe celiac disease was. Like if you do have a bit of gluten, the damage, like some people I'm guessing, or I have heard actually, show different signs. So I remember that we were speaking before and you were saying that like you're getting bruises and stuff, like you show different signs on your body, whilst others might not have the signs, but internally their stomach is like so bad.
Yeah, so the symptoms that I had are very different to other people who have recently been diagnosed, but then also when if I should say, consume gluten accidentally, because I'm very strict with everything that I eat and minimizing the cross-contamination. If I do accidentally consume any, I vomit profusely for hours. I have diarrhea. I'm so lethargic. I usually get migraines. My psoriasis on my elbows blows up. It's fun.
It's a whole heap of fun.
Yes, I have other friends who are celiac and they might just get a slight grumble in their tummy. So our external symptoms can differ, but the important thing to remember is that it's doing damage to everyone, regardless of what may happen on the outside when you consume any gluten.
Yeah, I guess if you want to try and get a positive spin on it, it's sort of good that you do show those symptoms, because then at least you know you're like, you can sort of put two and two together. Because if you didn't have symptoms, imagine what your gut would be. Because I know that the villi, I know that they, after time, if you're consuming gluten, can start to come down.
Yes.
And start to fade away. So it's like if you weren't getting those symptoms, it's not until you then get a gastrologist to go in and do some detection and stuff that you'd actually then understand the damage you're doing.
Yeah, I guess I try and always find a positive with every negative. And one of the positives that I have identified with myself having such bad reactions to gluten is that it has made me just so careful about what I eat. And if anything, it's made my family and my friends so aware of my condition, and now they're such advocates for me when we, eat out, or if we're going to a friend's house for dinner. They know what happens to me when I'm glutened. They can physically see what happens to me when we eat gluten. I think all of my friends have had me vomiting in their toilet at one point or another.
Yeah.
So I guess it has created a lot of awareness. I have this huge support team around me, whereas, and they can see, that there's a definite difference between being celiac and being gluten intolerant, whereas people who may be asymptomatic or only have a little grumbles in their tummy if they eat gluten, I think they would have a harder time appearing credible and getting that support from the community or their family and friends.
Definitely. So then I'm guessing Instagram was coming out and everything. So is that then when you decided to start doing the gluten-free bucket list?
Yeah, I just found it so, at the time, I only knew one other person who was celiac, and I just found it so hard to find restaurants to go and eat at, to find products, to connect with other people who had celiac disease, because it's great having friends who are aware of celiac disease, but sometimes you just want to have a friend who is celiac and they get it. So I'm just going to create this page and share recipes that I had found, new products that I had found, because honestly, finding a new gluten-free product at the supermarket is the best.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep track of places where I had gone out to dinner, so that if it was a birthday, I said, okay, I could just look back through my Instagram and go, okay, this restaurant was safe, let's go there. Yeah. I guess it took the stress out of me having to find new places to dine at constantly. So I developed a little list, the gluten-free bucket list of all of the safe places where I could eat. And then eventually, I guess it's evolved into much more than me just sharing my favorite products, my favorite restaurants, to now working with brands that I haven't heard of before, and then I try their products, and just spreading awareness around everything to do with celiac disease.
And I love that, because I could only imagine how challenging it might be, or must be, sorry, to find a cafe or restaurant that actually caters to someone who has celiac disease, and not for them just to be like, oh, you're gluten-free, that means I can put your toast in with the other no. Like,
No,
did you find it hard to find these restaurants or cafes, or generally you ring up beforehand?
If you are celiac, come to Melbourne. It is an absolute dream. There are so many celiac accredited restaurants here. It's amazing. But Brisbane at the time when I started Gluten Free Bucket List was so hard. I've lived in Sydney as well. That was quite difficult. I guess that the rise in the gluten-free trend for health has been beneficial, because it's increased our options of products, and brands are bringing out gluten-free lines, and which is fantastic. But also at the same time, it's created this grey area, even though there's no grey area between celiac disease and gluten intolerance. For the public, there seems to be a perception that, well, if you are celiac, you can just eat gluten-free. But we all know that there's so much more to having a celiac safe gluten-free option, compared to, like you said, a gluten-free option with the gluten-free bread cooked in the same toaster as the glutinous bread, etc., etc. So yeah, it's been tricky, but it's getting better. But eating out, oh my goodness, I was diagnosed in 2012. It's now 2021.
And 2021.
I know, I still get so anxious eating out. I have a very supportive partner, and Sam, I've trained him up. He knows all the questions to ask. He knows, he can tell if a restaurant is just saying what I want to hear, if they actually know the cross-contamination practices they need to put in place. So if I can't deal with a restaurant one day, he steps in. But most of the time I do find it really, really stressful. It still is stressful. I wish I didn't have to prove myself and prove that celiac disease is an actual health condition, and that if I consume even the smallest amount of gluten, that I will be really sick.
Yeah.
Some restaurants understand it, some restaurants don't. So yeah, I do find it hard, but preparation is key. Calling up beforehand, asking, do you cook the pasta in the same water? Do you have a separate preparation area? Do you change your gloves? Do you have a separate toaster? Asking all of the questions and judging off that, and I guess advocating for yourself. And if they say, oh, you'll be fine, saying, not getting angry, more trying to educate those hospitality staff to say, I don't feel comfortable eating here, but I just wanted to let you know I have celiac disease, and then, educate them. So then hopefully next time someone who comes in who is celiac won't have to have the same experience that I do, and can dine there safely.
I think that's important. It's that education component, because unfortunately, they probably just haven't had the education. And like I admit, I didn't know much about celiac disease until I had a friend who had it. And then when I started with Free From an Allergy, I saw our community, there was a lot that had celiac disease. So I took it under my own will, that I was like, I need to educate myself more about celiac disease and the difference between someone who's gluten intolerant and someone who actually suffers with celiac disease. And same with restaurant staff. It's like, well, they've just gone there to go do their job. Try to change and educate them.
And I think at the start, I guess I would always get defensive when someone would say, "Oh, you can eat this; it's gluten free." But now I guess through doing this so many times, because I do love to eat out. I have changed my approach and tried to approach it by educating them rather than, I guess, becoming defensive about saying that I can or can't eat something. And then, it benefits them as well. And the more people that know about celiac disease, the easier it is going to become.
Exactly. And I think, and it's always hard because once you've got that emotional tie to it as well, it's hard to remove that emotional component to it and be like, all right, just come with it with love and try to educate them. Don't try to get your back up. Remove that emotional trigger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I honestly, it's amazing what you're doing, especially because my next question was going to say, I was going to ask, what are some tips that you could say to those who are going to dine out? But you pretty much just answered that. It's bringing up ahead and doing your research.
Absolutely. And Ringer, I have a big list of all of the restaurants that I would like to dine in Melbourne, and I have a list for Brisbane. I have a list for Sydney. I am constantly talking to my celiac friends. I am a member of Celiac Australia, which is so helpful because they have celiac accredited restaurants. So they 100% know their stuff. But then also joining Facebook groups to connect with other people as well. There's just so many ways that you can gather information. You can make it a part of your celiac toolkit. And it's always going to be tough, but if you're educated, if you're empowered, you can live life a little bit easier.
And that's the thing, it's just making sure you still have that quality of life, because at the end of the day, it's like, unfortunately, there's no quick pill there's no pill to cure it. So it's like, well, how can you still maintain a high quality of life and find toolkits or tools to help you then live that life?
Yeah, it can be hard. It can be so isolating when it's your friend's birthday and they book a restaurant because they really want to go to that restaurant for their birthday, but you call ahead and they can't cater for you, and you don't want to be the party pooper and say I don't want to attend. So I guess I've tried to learn strategies of, maybe, as much as it sucks, eating a meal beforehand and maybe just having a nice cocktail or a nice drink or something like that at the restaurant. And then, for me, I can still be part of the celebration, the event, the dinner, and I know I'm not going to get sick. I can tell my friend beforehand that this is what I'm going to do so I don't get any questions on the night. And it's just a way of life now. It just happens like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way for me to live life and be happy, not be sad about missing out, but handling my condition to the best that I can as well.
And you had mentioned as well that you're a model.
Yes.
And attend a lot of events. How do you best prepare for when you are eating out? Like when they're saying, okay, Emily, we have a shoot for you, you need to be here at this certain time. Do you ring up ahead, or is there a little bit of anxiety that comes up because you're like, oh my gosh, it's a full day shoot. Do I have to bring my own snacks? Or
I just take my own food everywhere. Because I get so sick, I can't afford to risk it, even though unless it's a 100% gluten-free restaurant or a celiac accredited restaurant, no worries. But if I just can't risk it. So for me to decrease my anxiety around that, wondering if I will be sick or not, I just always bring my food from home. I let them know beforehand that I'll be doing this and they don't need to cater for me. And I guess everyone feels more comfortable because I know I'm not going to get sick, and then they know that I won't get sick either. And then attending events or any functions, I will ring up and see if it's at a a lovely restaurant in the city or something like that. They may be able to cater for me, but if they can't, rather than risk it and cause stress on the night, I will just say, you know what, I'll eat dinner beforehand and I'll have a nice drink, and always take snacks in my bag.
I love that. I'm such a snacker, so I would take snacks anyway.
Oh my gosh, I always have, nuts in my bag, a muesli bar, a protein ball, oh goodness, the list goes on. I've always got snacks because then it's just easier.
Yeah. Well, what is some advice you could give to someone who may feel they're a burden, or maybe too embarrassed to ask the question or ring up beforehand at the restaurant? Is there any good advice you could give someone?
Yeah, I still feel it today. I feel like a burden when I ring up, but I know I shouldn't, because we have an autoimmune condition and it needs to be taken seriously. Other conditions, like, for example, diabetes or any other health condition, are taken seriously. So we need to, we can't remain silent. We have to speak up. We have to get the word out about celiac disease. So educate everyone around you, your family, your friends, your partner, your workplace, so that you have a support team that can help you as well in making sure people take you seriously. And then also advocate for yourself. Like I said before, if the restaurant says, yes, we can cater for you, celiac disease isn't that bad, well, educate them. Yeah. And the more we speak up, we've already seen, great gains in the gluten-free product market. Let's try and see those gains in the celiac disease awareness and knowledge as well.
Definitely. So how best could someone accommodate for a celiac guest? Would you recommend?
I saw this question.
I said Emily the questions beforehand, just to make sure.
It's so tricky, but this, like I said, with dining out at a restaurant, if you feel like the friend or the family member that's going to cook you dinner is receptive to learning about celiac disease, and you can explain celiac disease to them, and they're taking on all the tips that you can give them about using separate chopping boards, separate toaster, not using the same butter because it probably has glutinous breadcrumbs in it, checking the salt and pepper to make sure that it has there's no gluten in that. If they're receptive to learning and are happy for you to be involved in preparing lunch, then I would be happy to dine with them and allow them to cook me a meal. But if they find it too hard, I also will just say, you know what, I'd rather enjoy my time with you, so I'm just going to bring a pre-prepared meal. Please don't take offense to this. It's not, I'm sure your cooking is delicious, but I have a chronic health condition, so I need to make sure that I'm looking after that.
Definitely. And I guess, what is another piece? I'm just pulling out advice from you. Sorry. But for someone who's just been diagnosed with celiac disease, it can be quite overwhelming. Is there any piece of advice that you could give to someone who has just been diagnosed?
Absolutely. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional, but I guess as someone who lives and breathes celiac disease every day, I can offer my advice in that regard.
Yeah.
The things that I found most helpful when I was diagnosed and the tips that I give to people who contact me who have recently been diagnosed is to, one, find a dietitian. Make sure it's someone who understands celiac disease, who takes celiac disease seriously, so that they can educate you on all of the changes you need to make and how you can manage celiac disease. I think it's really important to become a member of Coeliac Australia. They are so valuable. The amount of times I've called up and said, how do you know if this product is gluten-free, or this has happened to me, what should I do? Or, you know, they're such a wealth of knowledge. They have so many resources. You get access to a list of all of their celiac accredited restaurants. You keep up to date with all of the developments with celiac disease research. There is celiac disease magazines where you can learn about new products, and they're absolutely phenomenal. So that's a must. And also, I think it's really helpful to go to your local supermarket. I haven't done this for a while, but I know when I was diagnosed, Woolworths and Coles had I think it was run through Coeliac Australia, it has been a while. They did a tour of the supermarket to show you how to read labels, how to know where all the gluten-free products are in the supermarkets. That was so helpful for me, but I would assume it's still going, but I don't know if it is or not.
But I think that's an important one, because I had an interview with Kim, and she's a dietitian. She amazing, and we were talking about food labeling, and she goes, it's amazing. She goes, as soon as I have a patient that comes to me, they won't leave my room until they know how to read a food label.
You take that for granted. You know, we're not reading food labels for to see the protein content or anything like that. It's reading to see the ingredients, because you think, for example, a bag of nuts are naturally gluten-free, but one brand of nuts versus another brand of nuts, one brand could actually contain gluten because it was processed on a line that processes other glutinous products. So you're reading labels 24/7. Literally anytime I put something in my mouth, I've read the label. And also, even when I shop, I still read labels, because I have been caught out before where an item was not labeled as gluten-free. This is a fun thing to get your head around. There's gluten-free labeled products, but then there's also products that are gluten-free by ingredient. Yep. So I had purchased this product for many years, and then one day I ate it and I was so sick, and there was now wheat in the product.
Oh my gosh, because they changed.
Yeah, so they'd obviously changed, the way that they manufacture the product, the way that they produce the product, and I got caught out. So now every single product that goes in my pantry, that goes in my mouth, I check.
And it's definitely, and that's like a tool you have for the rest of your life, because you're continually checking.
Yes.
Do you find that you get quicker with it over time? Like, you know what to look for now?
Absolutely. There is an app. Coeliac Australia has an app where they talk about certain additives and preservatives, and you can literally type in the number 562 and it will tell you whether that is gluten-free or not.
Oh, that is amazing. Because sometimes, even when I'm reading food labels, because I just get discomfort and definitely don't experience anything to what you experience. But I try to go gluten-free whenever I can. And so sometimes when I've been looking at products to see if it does have gluten in it, I'm looking at some of these preservatives being like, 426, what is that, and what am I putting in my body?
That's, I said before that I like to try and find the positives in every negative. having celiac disease because I have to read labels, I have to be so conscious about what I eat. It has made me so aware of what I am eating, what's actually in the products. So it's probably made me a little bit healthier as well, because I try and stick to those, the foods in their natural form.
Right. Less processed, absolutely.
Less processed, yes, that is the word I was looking
for. It's like a Friday afternoon for us now recording, so it's fine. So, Emily, I guess I have to ask you, because I'm a bit of a foodie myself, what is your favorite go-to gluten-free recipe?
Oh, goodness. My darling mum has adapted lots of my favorite childhood dinner recipes to be gluten-free. So bless her, she's learnt so much about it, and yes, I'm so thankful for that. But the recipe that I cook the most would have to be banana bread.
The way to my heart. I love a good banana bread.
Yes, I'm not the best baker, and I do find baking gluten-free is quite tricky. So my little secret is just to buy the packet mixes in Woolies. They taste really, really good. They turn out perfectly every time.
I was so surprised, because like you said, when you go to a supermarket and you see the new options and ranges, I hadn't been to the packet aisle in ages for like baking. And I was going over there the other day and I was going through and I could not believe how many gluten-free options there were. I was
it's amazing. There's banana bread. You can now get gluten-free hot cross buns. You can
perfect for Easter.
Croissants, gluten-free focaccia. Oh, amazing. Amazing.
I interviewed Helen, and she's been on SBS for, I think it's Young Gluten-Free segment.
Yes.
Or Gluten-Free. There's a segment that she's been on, and I was asking her, I was like, Helen, I really need a good gluten-free bread. I'm like, some of them are good, but I was like, it's really hard to find, because I'm Italian background. I'm like, I miss that just home bread taste. And so she's actually given me her recipe. It's on her website. Amazing. And it's a buckwheat and chia one. I made it last night and I cut it up. I sent some over to my dad, and he was literally like, Loz, it actually tastes like proper bread. And that's coming from like the Italian himself. I was like,
I wish that I was better at cooking and creating recipes, but I'm not. I could cook a gluten-free dinner, but the baking side of things, I just buy packet stuff.
Well, now that there's the option there, might as well.
And a hot tip, you just mentioned that you're Italian. If anyone would like to travel overseas and has celiac disease, Italy is absolutely incredible. I was there in...
Really?
It's absolutely incredible. I was there in 2019 for modeling, and I was quite hesitant because I thought, oh my goodness, their staple diet is pizza and pasta. If I don't know about celiac disease, I am in a lot of trouble. But it's the best country I've ever traveled to and been able to eat at for celiac disease. They are so aware. There's no such thing. I never had to clarify myself to say, oh, I'm celiac, this means XYZ. You just say, can I have the gluten-free option, please, because I am celiac? And they go, no worries. Of course. Look at your face, your jaws are...
I'm sorry, because I was in Italy. I think I was in Italy in 2019 as well. And we were going through Tuscany and everything. And I just never even thought to ask for gluten-free options. I was always like kept with like the salads or the other options, or like the main dishes for like meat and veg and stuff like that. But did you ever did they have like gluten-free pasta and pizza?
It was...
I can imagine that.
Scroll back through my Instagram and you will see it was incredible. Oh my goodness, it was absolutely amazing. And McDonald's over there offer a gluten-free celiac safe option. I'm not the biggest fan of McDonald's because, it's quite greasy. It's not that good for you, but
Yeah.
it had to be done. I was just so excited to be able to walk into McDonald's and order
Yeah.
order on their menu a celiac safe. It's a very limited range. Like, there was only a cheeseburger and chips, but it was the best.
Oh my gosh, that's
So
amazing.
we're allowed to travel again. Celiacs, go to Italy. You won't regret it.
And you know what will probably be the best gluten-free pizza and pasta, because my nonna, she makes, we haven't tried actually gluten-free pizza. She's very like specific with her traditional one, so we haven't tried it yet, but mum and I actually did a gluten-free gnocchi and it was so simple and it tasted amazing.
Amazing.
Oh.
There's lots of options out there, but you just have to, it takes a little bit more research and time to find the products, trial and error with different recipes, but we can get there.
So I guess my last question for you, because I've already taken up so much of your time, and I really do appreciate, Emily, you being so open to your experience. What are some of your go-to places for resources other than obviously your Instagram, the Gluten Free Bucket List?
As I said before, definitely Celiac Australia.
Yeah.
And there are so many incredible other celiac pages like Yum Gluten Free. But I've also noticed recently that a lot of dietitians are now coming on Instagram who specialize in celiac disease. So like you were saying before, Kim is an incredible celiac dietitian, and her page is just an absolute wealth of knowledge. I guess that's something that I'm careful about sharing celiac information, because obviously I'm not qualified to do so, whereas someone like Kim, as a dietitian, she is actually qualified to share that information. So I guess having those two resources, where my page is more products and recipes and where I dine, and then going to Kim's page and it's actual research. And another favorite celiac dietitian is Marika Day as well. Marika has celiac disease herself, so she gets it.
We had her actually on our first virtual show.
Amazing.
She's got a wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
A wealth of knowledge.
So incredible. So incredible.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. I know the Free From Allergy community will, being able to just hear someone else's story and know that they're not alone. Yes, it can be isolating and it's okay to feel like that, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And the more that we can educate society and build awareness on celiac disease and actually give it the credit that it deserves, will benefit so many out there. So honestly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on, Lauren. And for anyone that's watching, please feel free to connect with me on Instagram, email me. I'm happy to talk to you. I get it. I've been there, I've done it. I live it every day. So if you're newly diagnosed or you've been diagnosed for a long time, even if you don't have questions, if you just want a celiac friend, come and say hi.
And we will pop all your Instagrams, because I know your personal one's beautiful. Then we've also got the Gluten Free Bucket List. We'll pop that underneath this video as well, just so that they can just click straight through and find you there and connect.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lauren, and the Free From Allergy community.
That's all right. Have a wonderful day. Bye.